On August 20th, Google announced that Gemma had passed 1 billion cumulative downloads, with more than 100,000 variants published on top of it over 2 years. Both numbers are real. Neither of them is an adoption number. This is worth taking apart carefully, because the same two metrics get quoted for every open weight family, and almost nobody says what they can and cannot resolve. Start with the billion. A download is a file transfer, not a user and not a deployment. Every continuous integration run that pulls weights counts. Every container rebuild counts. Every developer who pulls the same checkpoint on a laptop, then a workstation, then a cluster counts 3 times. And critically, a family is not one artifact. Gemma ships in multiple parameter sizes, in base and instruction-tuned form, and in several quantizations. And each of those is a separate repository with its own counter. So a single team standardizing on one model can generate dozens of downloads without a single additional end user. None of that is manipulation. It is just what the counter counts. The number is a real measure of distribution traffic. It is not a measure of how many things got built.
Now the 100,000. A variant is any model published with Gemma weights in its lineage. More than 70,000 of them hosted on Hugging Face. That set includes a genuine domain fine-tune trained on new data. It also includes the same weights re-uploaded at a different quantization or converted to a different serving format. The count does not distinguish between them, and no public number does. That is not an accusation of inflation. It is a statement about what the metric can resolve. Derivative counts in open-weight ecosystems are extremely long-tailed. A very small number of variants carry almost all of the actual downstream use, and the tail is enormous and mostly inert, which means the headline count tells you the ecosystem is easy to build on. It does not tell you what was built.
So which number would? Here is one. A team from Yale and Google built a model called C2S Scale on top of Gemma and used it to generate a hypothesis about a novel cancer therapy pathway. That hypothesis was then tested and confirmed in living cells. Read that sequence again because the order matters. The model proposed the mechanism. Wet lab work verified it. That is not a download, and it is not a variant count. It is a falsifiable result that survived contact with an experiment. A second example runs the same way. Dolphin Gemma from Georgia Tech and the Wild Dolphin Project fine-tuned on dolphin vocalizations to predict sound sequences. Both share a property the aggregate metrics cannot express. Someone with domain data and no ability to train a foundation model from scratch got to start from a working one.
Which is the actual argument for open weights, and it is narrower and more interesting than the billion suggests. Breadth is cheap. Any release checkpoint accumulates downloads and derivatives simply by existing and being convenient. Depth is rare, and it is where the value is. The small number of teams who had the data and the domain question and needed only the starting point. So if you are evaluating an open-weight release, the aggregate counters are the wrong instrument. Ask how many derivatives have meaningful downstream use rather than a repository. Ask how many produced a result that was checked against something outside the model. On that measure, 1 billion downloads and 1 verified cancer pathway are not the same kind of evidence, and only one of them is hard to get.